Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron here. This is one of the best single volume church history books out. I've gotten my notes to do a video series on what are the best books on church history, at least that I know of. History of Christian Dogma, Hike and Harnack and Friend and different ones. But this for a chef, on and on. This is one of the best that I know of personally. Pelican, names keep coming to my mind. And the reason I like it so much, and we use it as a textbook at Indiana Bible College, is because of its logical presentation and at least its attempt at even-handedness and a non-ideological presentation. So that is a good thing. But I mean, some of the other good stuff in here, like it's going to have apologetics part to it. Like when it's talking about Jesus, it's going to talk about how do we know Jesus lived, non-Christian sources for Jesus. And then he's going to have like a further reading section and a lot of things. So this is put out by Zondervan, Pat Zondervan there. Show you some other things, charts, maps, pictures. It's kind of a big book, but not too big, if you know what I'm saying. More than 200,000 copies in print. Now, for a church history book, I'm just guessing that's a lot. For books on church history, you wouldn't normally think that they would sell 200,000, but it must be because they're used as textbooks. But I do see it like in Christian bookstores and stuff, and see like the illustrations here, they're just amazing. There's just page after page of illustrations listed. Like here in Albany, Georgia, they've closed all our Christian bookstores. We used to have 3, and then we went down to 2, then we went down to 1, now we're at 0. And so I had to buy a Bible the other day for somebody. I went to Publix, and fortunately Family Dollar sells Bibles. I thank the Lord for that. Okay, so then he goes into what is church history. He teaches at Wheaton. He got his PhD from Nebraska, the University of Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so it says history, talking about a German term, refers to an event rather than a process or product. History may be defined as an event. Okay, ancient church history, periods of church history. He's got a good chronology. Okay, this is where I'm looking for here. This is a suggested reading on church history. And see, things like this are just invaluable for learning about history. I mean, just fantastic. And so things like this are just, so it's not just this book. This is like a fruit of a tree. It leads you down all the other branches. And you'll find things. So when you're doing research, this is what you're going to want here. History of church history. See, that's a cool thing. The history of church history. Like, I never even knew Earle Cairns made God and Man in Time. This is an introduction to historiography with much material useful to the student of church history. Suggested reading. Atlases. See, that's just good. Outlines of church history text. Like Roland Baton, that was another one. See, like, he's one of my favorite authors. Like his books on Erasmus and Servetus and Luther, just amazing because he's such an incredible writer. F.F. Bruce, 8 volumes, The Advance of Christianity Through the Centuries. And he's the editor. Let's see who else here. Henry Daniel Rops. This series provides a recent, occasionally inaccurate survey of church history from a Roman Catholic viewpoint. Tim Dowley, Fisher, Jacobs, Paul Johnson, which Paul Johnson is one of my favorite historians. one of my favorite books I've ever read in modern times. Kenneth Scott Latourette, when I first got saved, that's what I started reading, was Kenneth Scott Latourette. Williston Walker, Howard Voss, Ruth Tucker, Philip Schaff, and there's others. Okay, and like the History of Doctrine, this is all good. Justo Gonzalez, Alistair McGrath, Jaroslav Pelikan, who would be very amenable to the oneness cause. All right, History of Missions, John C. Thiessen, who's written the best book probably out on systematic theology. So, the fullness of time, Mithraism. See, to even bring up Mithraism, it's very difficult to understand Constantine without understanding Mithraism, the triple deity, the three-headed God. Because, and that was, Constantine was really dedicated to Mithraism. So, unless you know these things, it's very difficult to accurately access and process what's going on in history. Religious contributions of the Jews. Now, this is the other thing I was talking about, the historicity of Christ. This is a great little section just on apologetics. If it hasn't been already, I wish somebody would make this into a tract. That would make a great tract. I may do that. I may try to send that into Pentecostal Publishing House and not make that a tract, but some other things in church history into a tract. So let's see here how many pages we're looking at in this book. We won't measure it like we do Bibles and all this. See, like catacombs, what a lot of people don't know is when they found the catacombs, there were Sabellian catacombs there. So-called, I've got the book on Sabellian catacombs. Sabellian graves among the Montanists as well. Got a book on that. Okay, page 560, and that includes the huge, like the index as well, and many pages of notes, and then Christianity through the centuries, second generational failure. A lot of great definitions here. Decline, expansion, church growth, suggested reading. So like at the end of every chapter, he's got neat stuff. Like I see Paul Yonggi Cho located here with Yoido Full Gospel Church. He renamed himself David Yonggi Cho, if I'm not mistaken. Nicky Cruz, Satan, on the Loose, describes his experiences with satanic power. You know, Nicky Cruz came in with David Wilkerson, Cross and Switchblade, when he went to New York to start that mission. George Barna, David Barrett, World Christian Encyclopedia, old Brother French, he's the go-to guy for Oneness Pentecostals in David Barrett's works. Os Guinness, Dining with the Devil, a critique of megachurches. Fit Bodies, Fat Minds. Yep, there it is. Okay, so good stuff. I would highly recommend this book. Now, it's not written from a Oneness Pentecostal perspective. On those, I would recommend Tom Weiser, David K. Bernard, and Singh Bora, Kulwat Singh Bora. They would be the best. So God bless. Talk with you later in Jesus' name.